What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Where do I even begin? First, let me start off by saying shout out to Fight Hub for providing the coverage. They did a roundtable with Manny Pacquiao, and I want to give my reaction and my thoughts to what I seen. Link in the description in case you want to watch it. Now, the thing with the lie is this. It's easy to keep that lie going if no one questions anything. But the moment you have to answer even one question, you have to continue lying to keep the initial lie going. And that's just how the nature of a lie. And before you know it, the more questions that are asked, the more you're in a web of deceit, and you have to continually keep coming up with stuff. For example, let's say I had a girlfriend and I said, hey, I'm going to watch this boxing at my friend's house. I'm going to Tony's house. Oh, who's fighting? Now I got to make something up. What network? Now I got to make it's not on a network because I'm going to cheat and I'm not going to watch boxing. So I have to make up these things. Oh, what time does it come on? These are every time there's a question generated, it's going to require me to make something else up because the initial thing stated is a lie. Now, regarding the Pacquiao shoulder injury, I told you guys I never believed it. Something was always fishy with that story, as well as other people, Paulie Malignaggi. It just didn't add up. And this was further proof watching this roundtable. The opening question was from Kevin Iole of Yahoo Sports, and credit to him for asking a tough question. And he basically said, Pacquiao, I'm not understanding. He says, you were going into the Mayweather fight healthy. Why did you request a Toradol shot? I don't understand. Why would you ask for a Toradol shot if you felt fine going into the Mayweather fight? And Pacquiao looks befuddled for a second, and he says something like, oh, no, dude. This was from an injury from before 2009, and we just decided, the doctor decided, just in case I had any flare-ups in the middle of the fight, that I should get this Toradol shot. So, and this is the thing, you guys can thumb down the video, you can get mad at me, but look at the facts. I'm providing you with a link so you can watch this. You can hear it from the horse's mouth. Hear Manny Pacquiao saying it. So it's not people, oh, you hate Pacquiao. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just responding to what he says and the line of questioning that he's answering. And if you really break it down as a real boxing fan, not like a groupie for certain fighters and stuff, it just doesn't make sense, because Kevin Iole's question was a great one. If your shoulder was healthy, why did you request a Toradol shot, especially for an injury that had been an issue allegedly since before 2009? So let me get this straight. When you fought bigger, stronger guys like Antonio Margarito, Miguel Cotto, guys like Oscar De La Hoya, guys like Ricky Hatton, when you're fighting those types of people, Bradley, all these people, and a lot of these people are guaranteed Hall of Famers, if not everybody I just listed, right? When you fought all those people before the fight, because you listen right after that question, they asked Pacquiao, they said, did you request a Toradol shot in any other fight? And he was like, no, this was the first fight. So out of all those fights I just named with Hatton and Margarito, Shane Mosley, powerful guys, strong guys, right? You never requested a Toradol shot for an injury that had been an issue since 2009, before 2009. Those were Pacquiao's words. Go watch the roundtable. So you've had an injury since before 2009, and out of nowhere, the very first time that you elect to request a Toradol shot is for the Mayweather fight only, because in case you have some kind of issue in the middle of the fight. Why wouldn't that be an issue in any of those other fights? Why weren't you worried about De La Hoya having a flare up in the middle of that fight, or your shoulder being like janky in the middle of a fight with Margarito? That's a big guy, you know what I mean? Margarito's tough, granite chin, things like that. So you wouldn't want to be one-armed against him either. So I don't understand. It does not make sense to me why you would request a Toradol shot out of all these high-profile HBO pay-per-view fights and things that you've had on that level. Why would you request a Toradol shot only in the Mayweather fight? And then he says that the commission denied it, so he didn't get it. But I'm wondering why you would do it just for one fight. That's one issue. And as the roundtable goes on, it becomes very awkward. Freddie Roach looks absolutely petrified and terrified. It's like, have you ever been showing someone how to do something, like, let's say cook? You're showing your kid or someone how to cook, and they're doing something wrong, and you just want to jump in and do it for him. That's how Freddie Roach looked to me. It looked like he was so nervous to let Pacquiao talk, because the more Pacquiao kept opening his mouth, the worse it was getting, because he was saying things, and I'm gonna talk about that, some of the other awkward things. So just so many loopholes with this whole story, right? With this Toradol shot, and then it gets even worse because they start talking about Manny Pacquiao and his dreams. And Pacquiao goes on to say that it was a really loopy interview. It was I'm not being facetious at all, but it seemed like Pacquiao, you know when you go to the dentist and they give you that anesthetic and laughing gas and stuff like that? Have you ever seen the YouTube video David at the dentist? And he's like, I feel funny. You have 4 eyes. And he was just like all over the place. That's what this interview, this roundtable seemed like. They're talking about Toradol shots and this, and then Pacquiao's laughing at weird moments. Then he's talking about the dreams he had, which is what I want to talk about. Just very awkward. So Pacquiao gets into his dreams. He says he dreamt Mayweather, but there's controversy. And 30 days before the fight with Mayweather, so Mayweather Pacquiao happened, I believe, May 2nd. So April 2nd, he had this vision, this epiphany that he was going to lose to Mayweather, or there's some controversy, whatever. Even though there was no controversy in the actual fight, the right man clearly won. And he dreamt about it, and he started telling people, this is what doesn't make this, the loophole with that story. If you knew 30 days in advance that you were going to lose to Mayweather, leading up to the fight, the weigh-in and all that, you kept saying God was going to deliver Mayweather into your hands. So if you knew you were going to lose to him, why are you telling the public that God spoke with you and he was going to deliver Mayweather into your hands? Then immediately after the fight, and even after that, when he was doing interviews after the fight had already taken place, Pacquiao maintains that he believes he beat Mayweather. He said, oh, all he do is running. He was just running. I beat him. I won. I believe I won. And Max Kellerman even looked at him like he was crazy. Like, you won the fight. Oh, none of us at ringside had you winning, right? So Pacquiao, and he's one of the few, other than the other people telling me to watch the fight in slow motion, that believes Pacquiao won the fight, right? You could say it was boring, it lacked, whatever, all that. But no one in their right mind really believes Pacquiao won with logical evidence of it. I'm not watching the fight in slow motion either. So Pacquiao maintains that he believes he beat Mayweather. So again, it just shoots holes in your whole story. You knew 30 days, you knew before other people, because you're allegedly, like, you're predicting the future. You knew 30 days in advance you would lose to Mayweather, so it shouldn't have been a shock when you actually did lose, because this is what you dreamt. This would happen in your dream. And I don't know, it's just getting ridiculous. They kept going on, and the media was asking him more and more questions about his dreams. Hey, did you dream about Oscar? Yeah, I dreamt about Oscar. They're like, what about Hatton? Did you have a dream about that? It was a very awkward roundtable. He was like, no, not Hatton, but I dreamt of the Marquez last fight. Like, what? And then one of the reporters asked Pacquiao, they're like, wait, so you dreamt you got knocked out? You dreamt you lost to Marquez? And he's like, and he just looked, again, confused. Again, you guys could watch this. This is not my word. This is me giving my reaction to something he said. So it's just, I refuse to believe that Pacquiao has this relationship with God directly, like the way he's making it sound. I'm not saying he doesn't believe in God or he's not a believer. What I'm saying is the way he's saying it is like God is using him as an instrument, like he has a direct line to God, like through text messages. And I refuse to believe that Pacquiao is this holy trinity and this apostle and this gospel that is being gifted all these like premonitions of what's going to happen, and he's a soothsayer all of a sudden, and he could just predict what's going to happen and predict the future in advance, and he's getting all these omens and messages of what fight outcomes are going to be. I don't believe that. I think that's very far-fetched. Like, you just know the outcome of all of your fights in advance. It just, I don't know, it was all over the place. Like, you knew you were going to lose to Mayweather, but then you kept maintaining that you beat Mayweather post-fight. You knew Marquez was going to knock you out. Like, why'd you take the fight? Why'd you pull out? Because, I mean, who wants to get brutally knocked out and faceplant? It doesn't make sense. And you could look at Freddie Roach's reaction. He just looked so nervous as Pacquiao was going on about these dreams, and the media was asking weird questions, and Oh, did you dream about this fight? Did you dream about the Bradley 3 fight? Like, I don't know, man. We just did a roundtable with Sergey Kovalev. It was a great one. Kovalev also, English isn't his first language, but it was a great one. He answered the questions. There was a few things that he wasn't sure of, and then he went on to get his translator, Igis, to fill him in Russian. But this was just a weird roundtable because of the questions, and like, I'm not trying to hear about Kovalev having a dream he beat Bernard Hopkins and he dreamt Andre Ward would beat Barrera. I don't know. It sounds really weird that this would transpire in a roundtable. And then brings me to the last point. They asked Freddie Roach about a potential fight with Crawford, why Bradley 3 was chosen instead of Terrence Crawford. A lot of people wanted to see that fight, including myself. And Freddie Roach says, we wanted the fight, we were down, we agreed to the fight with Terrence Crawford. Bob Arum interjects and says that basically the fight wasn't made because Terrence Crawford, he's a good fighter, future champion, but his name is not ringing bells. He's not a big enough draw for him to put him on the card with Manny Pacquiao. It would have been weird. And he was like, this was before I came up with the idea of the anti-Trump undercard. So basically he says, now with this undercard, with this hell of an undercard with Gilberto Ramirez and guys like Manny Perez and Devin Haney and all these Arthur Abrams and all these people, Oscar Valdez and all these people, he says it doesn't matter who they would have put on the bill with Manny Pacquiao because the undercard is so explosive. But he said at the time he didn't have the undercard set. So Terrence Bud Crawford wasn't selected because basically he wasn't a big enough star. And there's loopholes in that, and you can shoot down that in terms of the story. For example, simple Google searches will show you everything I'm talking about. Bob Arum did interviews where he stated that Pacquiao is going to watch Crawford versus Thierry Jean to determine his next opponent. But then if you listen to the roundtable interjection by Bob Arum, what does he say? He says that basically he stepped in and determined and deemed Pacquiao, although he has a rising potential, he's not now a big enough star to put him on the bill opposite Manny Pacquiao before his superstar undercard, as he likes to put it, the anti-Donald Trump undercard. So what was Manny Pacquiao watching the Thierry Jean fight for? And he said on numerous occasions that they'll basically give Pacquiao a couple of names, and then Pacquiao watches tapes and Pacquiao chooses who he wants. And they said in the runnings were Terrence Crawford, Amir Khan, Timothy Bradley 3, and they even threw in Adrian Broner. So if that was the case, first of all, why are you picking Bradley, who we've already seen twice, instead of Broner? Broner just did 1 million versus Ashley Theophane on regular TV. So his first pay-per-view, if it was versus Pacquiao, we know what type of numbers that would do. Same thing with Amir Khan. Amir Khan's obviously headlining with Canelo on an HBO pay-per-view. So again, I don't understand saying stuff like, oh, Amir Khan can't sell, and the networks didn't want him versus Pacquiao, but they wanted him versus Canelo, which more people consider a bigger mismatch because Canelo's so big, right? Pacquiao and Amir Khan are at least in the same division. That's another video. That's another story. But again, what was Pacquiao watching tapes on Crawford Jean, and why was he watching that fight if it was already determined that Crawford is not a big enough star no matter what to be fighting Pacquiao? See, there's too many ways you could slice this story up. So it doesn't seem real. Freddie Roach was basically saying they wanted and agreed to the fight. I don't understand then why was it chosen to fight Bradley for the third time when Bob Arum, again, simple Google research, you can find all of this stuff. Bob Arum says we give Pacquiao a list and he makes the final decision. So obviously it doesn't look like he does make the final decision if Bob Arum says he basically stepped in and took Crawford out of the equation because of the name and he's not big enough. And then the last point, and don't make me do an Ego Valley video, and it depends on the feedback in the comment section because I've already done justice, but don't make me turn it to ego and have to really put the nail in the coffin. But the last thing I'll say is this: what happens is when you downplay certain fighters, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. For example, Team Golovkin, Gennady Golovkin's team, they pretty much said, oh, what's the point of fighting guys like Edislandi Lara, Andre Ward? They're not big enough names. That's fine. Using your logic, Andre Ward's not a big enough name. Edeslandi Lara, even though he was on a pay-per-view main event with Canelo, that even though he has a resume with names like Paul Williams, which he was robbed, he won that fight. Guys like Carlos Molina, that was a shaky performance, but he still stepped in with him. Vanes Matarosin and Gulo, even though he has all these quality names on his resume, Canelo, that he's not a big enough name. Ward's not a big enough name. But Triple G's willing to fight Adama, or David Lemieux, or Dominique Wade, or Willie Monroe Jr. You know what I'm saying? So it puts a lot of pressure on yourself, because there's no way you could downplay an Andre Ward and fight Dominique Wade. Who has a bigger name? Ward was in Creed. He's an HBO commentator. He's a fighter. He's done more in the sport than Dominique Wade and Willie Monroe Jr. put together as a pro. Period. You know what I mean? Same thing with the Pacquiao situation. If Crawford isn't the biggest name, then why on earth did Pacquiao fight Chris Algieri, right? Chris Algieri was coming off of a rocky performance versus Ruslan Provodnikov that he got a split decision victory, and Pacquiao fought him in Macau, China, coming off of that, where he looked like a cyclops. At the first watch, I had Ruslan winning the fight. I think Dan Rayfield and other people did too. But nonetheless, it was a gutsy performance by Chris Algieri, but he didn't look sensational. You know, he was badly hurt, and he weathered the storm with a bad eye. But before that, Chris Algieri had hometown fights in New York with the biggest name probably before he fought Pacquiao. He fought Ruslan, and Emmanuel Taylor was probably the only big names that would stand out. Since the Pacquiao fight, he's fought other guys like Eric Bonet and fought Amir Khan. But at the time he was selected for Pacquiao, it was off of the Ruslan Provodnikov split decision victory, right? So split decision. Meanwhile, Terrence Crawford, he's moved up in weight and knocked out everybody in a new division. He moved up to junior welterweight, stopped Thomas Delorme, stopped Thierry Jean, the first and only person to stop him. Lamont Peterson didn't even stop Thierry Jean. And then Hank Lundy, a guy who I think only had one stoppage loss to John Molina. Victor Postal, a guy that people want to see Terrence Crawford fight, fought Hank Lundy, and he went the distance, and it was a competitive fight, more so than the Crawford versus Hammer and Hank Lundy. Hammer and Hank Lundy got stopped by Terrence Crawford. Not to mention what he did in lighter divisions, how he took a Bradis Prescott fight, 2 weeks notice, moved up from 135 to 140 against his manager's discretion, Cameron Duncan. Took that fight with 2 weeks. Bradis Prescott, a Colombian puncher who floored and knocked out Amir Khan in one round. Terrence Crawford fought Bradis Prescott with 2 weeks notice in a new division because he moved up to 140 for that fight with 2 weeks preparation time. He did a Nate Diaz, had no time to prepare, and he made Bradis Prescott look like an amateur. Again, a guy who slept Amir Khan, right? Yuriorkis Gamboa, Crawford had a hometown title defense. First title defense, he's taken on Olympic gold medalist in Yuriorkis Gamboa, who was undefeated at that time and became the first and only person to stop Yuriorkis Gamboa. Not to mention fights like Ray Beltran, Pacquiao's sparring partner, so you could easily add that to the storyline. Not to mention going to Scotland, fighting Ricky Burns, who was champion at that time, his backyard, and defeating him. So what I'm saying is, how is Crawford not a big enough star, but Chris Algieri is? Look what Crawford has done versus what Chris Algieri did at the time when he landed his fight with Manny Pacquiao. He had an Emmanuel Taylor win, right? And he had a split decision over Ruslan Provodnikov. He was champion for about 5 or 6 months and got stripped before he even fought Pacquiao. And he fought him at a catchweight. So again, I'm not really buying this, oh, Crawford's not a big enough star, but other guys are. Brandon Rios and all these other people are, when Rios was coming off of a loss. Crawford's undefeated. He looks like a monster. He's ambidextrous with his fighting style, and he's not big enough. Even though you said that Pacquiao gets to pick who he wants, and Freddie Roach is saying that we okayed the Pacquiao fight and we wanted that fight. Let me know what you guys think. I rest my case. Share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.
Seriously, I mean, if the journalists actually did some real investigating journalism, it's deceptive, and it's to me it's just straight lying that what Bob Arum is doing, and it's to me it's revolting that the fans have to sit there and get their hopes up for something that doesn't exist. Well, you know, Chavez Sr. said it too. If Bob Arum wasn't involved, I mean, you have to go back and look at history. You know, you look at Oscar De La Hoya. Hoya. He had to get away from Bob to get the big fights. You look at Miguel Cotto. You look at Floyd Mayweather. Now you're looking at Julio Chavez Jr., Mikey Garcia. I mean, you have to look at the history of this guy who's known for not being honest, not being truthful, and Julio's been on the shelf for a year. Mikey Garcia's been on. I mean, he has absolutely no heart about the fact that these guys are fighters that have to feed their families. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. But you know what? You guys perpetuate it because you write the same vomit that he spews, and you guys lick it up and you write it instead of asking the hard questions. You know, what do you agree to? What have you done? You're telling us everything, but you're showing us nothing. What did you agree to? And who are you talking to? You know, you guys, I mean, that's your guys' job. Do some, ask the hard questions. Or get together and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to write your bullshit anymore because we don't believe you. You know what? We've talked. All I know is that Floyd wants this fight more than ever. That this is something that he's pushing, he's trying, but it's impossible to work with Bob. With Bob, it's smoke and mirrors, it's misdirection. We say a bunch of this over here, but behind the doors, you know, he's never going to let it happen.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.